Hi everyone, so this is just a quick video where I wanted to talk a little bit about the current civilization situation. As you probably know, 1.1 update, which was labeled as a major update, has been out for about a week now. And I have a few things to say about that. First of all, they had this additional UI updates and polish point over here, and they made a pretty big deal out of it. They also talked about the UI updates in social media, so they made a pretty big deal out of this. But here are the actual patch notes, and if we scroll down to UI, there isn't really that much of it in here. And some of these fixes do not affect the gameplay at all, like the lines connecting the tech and civic trees. You know what's really funny about this part? It's that it's only fixed in some resolutions, but not the others. It's still very much broken in some resolutions, but I digress. Either way, this is not exactly a lot of UI updates here. If you really read through this, there's barely any, really. So it was a little bit weird making such a big deal out of that. I will say one thing, this is supposed to be a major patch, because if we scroll up over here, they labeled this as major patch themselves. Yeah, right here. Update 1.1 is here, our first major update to Civilization 7. And if we really read through these patch notes, I'm not really sure if I would label this as a major update. The biggest thing this update does is some work around the culture victory, which was definitely necessary. I will say though, there are multiple new bugs that have been introduced in this update. I've seen quite a few people joke that this update added more bugs than it fixed, and there's certainly something to that. And speaking of bugs, another thing that happened about a week ago was the new civilizations and leaders being released. So among them we have Carthage, and if you read the description of the Carthaginian unique cavalry unit, you will see that they are supposed to get +1 combat strength for each unique city resource assigned to your capital. However, what actually happens is that they get +1 combat strength for each resource assigned to your capital, period. So what you can do is build the wonders that give you more resource slots, like the Monk's Mound or the Colossus, get a bunch of camels, and you can easily get +20, +30, or even more, depending on the map size. But even on smaller maps, you can very easily get +20 if you build the Monk's Mound and the Colossus. So it's a little bit broken when you can basically double your combat strength and completely steamroll basically anything. What's also really funny is that one of the new momentos that was added to the game is basically Maya Light. Yeah, right here. Node G. This is basically Maya Light. Every time you research a technology or civic mastery, the capital gains production equal to 15% of its cost. The difference being that the Mayan one triggers every time you research any technology. This one only triggers for the mastery. So it's not as strong as the Maya, but the fact it's there, and the Mayan one did not get changed at all, is pretty crazy to me, because I think by now pretty much everyone knows, and in case you don't, the Mayan ability is really broken. And when I'm talking about the Mayan ability, what I mean is this one here, for their unique quarter. Every time you research a technology, this settlement gains production equal to 15% of its cost, which is insanely overpowered, especially with the way production overflow works in Civilization 7. It's actually really funny to me, because in Civilization 5, we had a massive science overflow bug, exploit really, that was present in the game for years. It took until 2014 to fix the science overflow exploit in Civilization 5. And here we are again, where this is essentially a variant of an overflow exploit, but it's also an insanely powerful ability. So the fact that they added a light version of this in a memento, that's kind of crazy to me, to be honest. And I will also say one thing, the overall sentiment around Civilization 7 has definitely soured in the last few weeks. I see quite a lot of people who are just kind of tired with the current situation surrounding Civilization 7. And I do think the current concurrent player numbers for Civilization 7 actually reflect this pretty well. It's actually below 20,000 right now when I'm recording this. And it's basically at half of Civilization 6 right now, if you look at the current number. The 24-hour peak is also well below Civilization 7. I made a prediction some time ago, several times, that I think we might actually see Civilization 7 drop below Civilization 5 eventually. And I think this might actually happen sooner than I thought. Especially if we look just at the current numbers, not the 24-hour peak. But I think this number is a pretty good reflection of the current situation surrounding the game. I mean, I only speak for myself, but I will say that my expectations for this update 1.1 were pretty low, and I'm still disappointed. The update failed to meet even like a very low bar of my almost non-existent expectations. So, okay, let me just show you the tech tree right now at this moment. The connections that were allegedly fixed in the update. One of the few actual UI fixes that was there. And immediately when we open the tech tree, you can look at this bit, and it still looks kind of messed up. And while this does not affect the gameplay, they made a pretty big deal out of these UI fixes, and one of the few actual UI fixes that's there isn't even like really properly fixed. At least the way I see it. And I am currently playing in 1440p resolution, because that's the resolution of my main monitor. And if we look at the Steam hardware survey, it's actually a pretty commonly used resolution at this point. Here's the current Steam hardware survey and the primary display resolution. We can see that it's 30% basically. 1440p is 30%. And it's actually more than 30% if we add the 1440p ultra widescreen monitors. So if we add the 3440 by 1440, it's almost 2%, so it's basically almost 32%. Basically almost 1/3 of the Steam users use 1440p primary display resolution. And it still looks pretty messed up. And I still say that the fact that there's no UI scaling in Civilization 7 in 2025, that's actually crazy. The only actual scaling option that exists is the text one. And by the way, if you use a large or extra large font, a lot of UI elements will be completely messed up. One of the UI elements that will be very messed up with this are these yields. I would have to load a save with bigger yields than this, but if we use a larger font, like large for example, you can imagine much bigger numbers in here, and they will start to completely overlap, making this bit of the UI near unreadable. Anyway, yeah, that's basically what I wanted to talk about briefly. And like I already said, I think the current concurrent player numbers on Steam are a pretty good reflection of the Civilization situation at the moment. Now, I do hope we'll see some actual significant improvements over time, and that we'll be in a much better spot, let's say a year from now. But I said it before, and I'll say it again, Civilization 7 is, to me, the most blatant example of an actual unfinished game being released. The fact that we have these very basic features scheduled for April is actually kind of crazy. Things like one more turn, or research queuing, or even beyond April, auto-explore, additional map sizes. How is something like additional map sizes scheduled for beyond April? That is crazy to me, actually. But yeah, either way, I don't really want to repeat myself, and I wanted to give you guys an update for those of you who don't follow the Civilization situation, but maybe you wanted to know what's going on. So this is what's going on right now. Either way, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this update, and I will see you next time.